Compass Rose Academy parents. I hope that you have all had a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. What I wanted to do today is just share with you all. We had a great parent weekend or parent group. For those of you who were able to join us a couple weeks ago on a Saturday morning, we meet each month and just have a time for parents to support one another and just kind of go over things from the program. And so this last one, we talked about relational needs. And so I wanted to go over that with everyone. So for those of you who attended, this is just kind of a summary of a reminder of what we talked about. But for those of you who weren't able to attend, this is just kind of a recap for you so that you can gain from that as well. So basically, what we talked about was the relational needs. Our parent weekend coming up in January is all focused on bonding. And so a big part of bonding is being aware of our relational needs and being able to bring those into relationship and getting relational needs met in relational ways. And so this is actually a piece that we've adapted from Townsend on the basic relational needs. And so I want to go over those. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to actually list what the relational needs are. And in the email that we've sent with this link, you'll find an attachment as well that will have an actual list of the relational needs that you can follow along with. So the first one is acceptance. It's to feel as though you belong just as you are without being judged. And this is the very basic human crucial longing that all of us have, is that desire to be accepted, to belong, and to really be accepted just as we are. And so that, as we go through this list, you'll notice that they really do start with the very basic at the beginning, and they kind of work up to a more higher level of need. And so the second one is empathy, to feel that someone else can feel what you are feeling, that they know on an experiential level what you are going through. And so this is a lot of people, if you are around counselors and things like that, you kind of are aware of talk of empathy, that ability to connect with something inside of yourself that allows you to connect with something that the other person's going through. And so we all want to really feel that people can connect with us through the things that we're going through, and that they don't necessarily make it about themselves when they're connecting to us, but they really can connect with what we're feeling. The third one is validation, to feel assurance from others that our feelings are significant and that they matter. It's kind of a way of people really communicating with us that, hey, it makes sense that you're feeling that way. And it's not always about whether it's right or wrong or whether we stay stuck in that feeling, but it's kind of a way of saying, you know what, if I were going through that, I'd probably feel that too, because a lot of times when we're going through different circumstances, we can kind of feel like, man, am I crazy? Am I out of my head? Like, what is going on? And sometimes just having another human being sit there with you and say, you know what, I get it. If I were going through that, I'd probably feel like that too. So we just kind of need somebody to validate us and say, yeah, you're not crazy. It's kind of a human thing, that it makes sense that you feel that way. The next one is identification, to hear from others about something that they've gone through that helps them to relate to your experience or feeling. So sometimes we just want somebody that can connect with us in a way of saying, yeah, I went through this too. And again, it's part of just feeling normal. It makes us feel like a human being, makes us feel like we're not crazy, that somebody else has experienced similar things and we can relate to them. And again, it all goes back to that bonding and connection. We want to connect with people. We are hardwired, created to bond and relate to other people. Containment is the next one, and that's to be able to express intense feelings and have someone stay close to you without trying to fix you or leave you. And so what this means is, that you've got these intense feelings that come up. It might be anger, it might be sadness, it could be, envy, whatever it is that comes up. And, sometimes we hide those feelings, we suppress them. Maybe we learn that it's not okay to share those feelings. And so the thing when that happens is the feelings don't go away. They actually intensify, get worse. They become even more shameful. And so the idea is that through this connection, we can connect with people, say, here's what I'm feeling. And when we are able to contain for other people, we say, yeah, I can hear that. And you know what? Tell me more. I can handle that. I can handle hearing your anger. And it's not making me mad. It's not sending me over the edge. I can just hear that you're angry and still be with you, and I can still handle more of this. One of the things we focused on in the parent group on the past Saturday when we met was that doesn't mean that you just let them go off on you, let them be disrespectful, that you let them run over you. You're not a doormat. You can set boundaries and say, look, I will hear this when you can talk to me respectfully, but it does mean that you can handle, the intensity, sometimes the anger, with boundaries of being respectful. So what that means is we have to be okay with being able to hear and experience anger or sadness or whatever may be hardest for you. A lot of times, for some people, it may be hardest to hear anger. For some, it may be hardest to deal with sadness. So check yourself and see, what is it that I really have a hard time feeling, experiencing, allowing other people to express, and recognize that in yourself, so that when it comes up in other people, you can move forward and go close and draw toward them instead of shutting them down. Because if we shut them down and just say, no, that's not okay, then they're going to react in some other way. It will come out somehow. The next one is clarification. For someone to ask you questions to help you understand yourself better. That's a lot of what takes place here a lot of times. As as we talk through things, a lot of times there's just clarity that comes, and they begin to understand, and things just begin to make sense, understanding why we act the way we do. And so that's another need that we have, for people to just ask questions. The next one's understanding. For someone to be able to express that they understand mentally what you're going through. They can reflect back to you what you just said. So on a basic level, being able to really feel understood. That's something that, certainly with the girls we work with, we hear a lot of that sense of just wanting to be understood, because a lot of times, especially during teenage years, there's a lot of times when things aren't making sense to them themselves. I don't understand why I'm acting this way. I don't understand why I can't handle this right now, or whatever it is. And so being able to, as much as we can, seek to understand, not seek to fix, but just seek to understand what they're feeling and what they're expressing is important. Perspective. For someone to help you see a connection between your situation and a pattern in your life. This is something, again, that we do in groups a lot. We help to look for patterns and themes. So, as we go through this list of basic relational needs, this is something to think through. How am I helping my daughter to be able to do these things? For instance, to gain perspective and connect a situation in her life with a pattern in her life. But it's also ways for us to explore, what are the relational needs that I'm having right now? What are some patterns and themes that I need to connect to? Maybe as a parent, what is this current situation, something that I keep running into with a spouse or with a child, that is a pattern or theme that keeps coming up in my life? That's something that I can address. Next one is encouragement. For someone to believe in you, that you have what it takes to keep growing. A lot of times we get stuck, especially in a parent-child relationship, where we just cycle back and forth through misbehaving and directing and giving advice and lecturing and then misbehaving, and all of that cycle just keeps going and going. And sometimes we have this relational need that is for somebody to be my cheerleader, for somebody to really just encourage me and see the good in me too, because it's real easy to get stuck in just responding to the negative and the misbehavior. And so sometimes we just need to take a moment to intentionally call out the good and encourage. Comfort. For someone to be there for you when you need to grieve a loss. When you grieve alone, it feels twice as heavy. When you grieve with someone, it's cut in half. And losses doesn't just mean that somebody died. We can be grieving a lot of different kinds of losses. When somebody breaks up with us, or when we just lose a friend due to somebody moving away, or something where a friend, maybe we experience rejection from a friend in some way. There are times when we just need to draw close and grieve with someone, and there are times when maybe we are not the one that they're comfortable grieving with or whatnot. Maybe it's the other parent that can grieve with them, or maybe it's a counselor, pastor, a friend. But we recognize the need to grieve that loss, and we help them to pursue that and to go toward that. Forgiveness. For someone to give you grace to see that you can be forgiven and to help you forgive others. Forgiveness is an important relational need. You see that a lot in the Bible, and one of the things that Townsend taught me through the counselor training program and through the process of working with him has been that forgiveness really is a relational issue. A lot of times we as Christians, or even just people in general, sometimes say, yeah, you've done bad things and it's time, you really need to forgive yourself for those things. But forgiveness really is a relational thing. It's something that we experience forgiveness from God, and then we experience forgiveness relationally through other people as his grace bearers, his image bearers, that when we experience forgiveness through other people, so kind of confessing, this is what I feel horrible about, this is what I've done, It's one thing to experience that between you and God, or like trying to forgive yourself. But it is another thing when another human being sits with you and can see what you've done and express that forgiveness, even through that relationship that God has set up with with individuals as His image bearers. Um, Feedback is the next one, for someone to be honest with you about what it's like to be with you. This helps you develop the ability to see yourself accurately. You need grace from people before they can give you truth. Um, and so feedback is something we focus on a lot here. And in our groups, in the counseling groups, we set it up where there is the ability to give each other feedback, to be able, so that we can see ourselves as other people see us. The important thing to remember here, though, is that there's a saying, people don't want to hear what you have to say, or they won't feel, they won't take in what you have to say unless they know that you care about them. I guess I don't know exactly. I don't remember how the saying goes, but essentially they don't care what you have to say unless they know that you care about them. And so that's why the grace always has to come first, that we communicate that we are for them before we're always giving feedback about, and this is what you're doing wrong, and here's another thing, and here's another thing. So it is important to give feedback, but within within a relationship or context of grace, and communicating that we're for them, we're on their side. The next one is wisdom, for someone to give you information from experience or from the Bible that can help you know what to do in a given situation or in general. So that sense, that people have gone before, and there are times when we just want advice, want to know that somebody else has some nuggets of wisdom that we can draw from. Confrontation, for someone to be honest enough with you to point out a behavior that's going to end up hurting you. Advice, for someone to recommend to you what to do to change and grow. And the warning with kind of wisdom, advice, confrontation, as we're getting down, this, as I mentioned before, this is the higher level. And this is the sense that people can't necessarily or won't take in these things if they're not first feeling accepted, understood, and cared about. And again, that doesn't mean that we accept all the behavior and that everything is okay with us, but that we really can communicate that you as a person, I'm okay with. I care deeply about you and accept you no matter what. And I care enough about you to confront these things and to address these things. But again, the biggest thing to do is to ask yourself and look, how am I communicating? Am I communicating unconditional love and positive regard and acceptance? And then out of that, do I have the equity to be able to really be setting this confrontation right now? And again, not jumping to advice and fixing things, but seeking first to understand and help the person to feel understood. Structure, for someone to hold you accountable, to help you break bad habits, set new patterns, and develop self-control. Prayer, for someone to join with you in asking God to connect with you and help you. And challenge, for someone to push you out of your comfort zone and into what you are really capable of. And so as we lead up to Parent Weekend in January, the 22nd through the 24th, we're excited about this Parent Weekend. We've got a lot of great things planned. And as mentioned, the emphasis will be on bonding. And so I'd encourage you to take this list and really go through it between now and then and explore what are some ways what are some relational needs that you are noticing in yourself, maybe the hardest ones for you to feel that those are met in you, maybe the hardest ones for you to meet in other people, maybe some blind spots that you might have as you go into this weekend. And as I tell the girls at different times, as you want to be understood in a relationship, the important thing is to seek first to understand. That we all go into a relationship not just saying, well, here's my point of view and I want you to understand where I'm coming from, but to go into a relationship where if you can seek first to understand the other person and where they're coming from, then often they're much more open and receptive to your point of view as well. So thank you for joining me. I hope this is helpful. And again, we're really looking forward to seeing you for Parent Weekend. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you later this month.